Digital Talking Book Review.
Hey, what is going on, everyone? This is your boy, Blind Man Reviews, Tanveer Syed. Make sure to hit that like, subscribe, and bell notification buttons, as all your support really helps this legally blind YouTube content creator remain motivated to continue making many videos on both this channel and on the Bengal Dragon channel, and through the YouTube algorithms would really help this channel grow. Yes, I know it has been a very, very long time since an upload on this channel, but people, trust me, I have been extremely busy. The last few months have been very hectic for me, so to speak. Shifting to a new apartment, getting a new job, transitioning out of my old job, and all the responsibilities that come along with it. Right, but I've been meaning to do this for a while because a few weeks ago I finished a book called Where Good Ideas Come From by Stephen Johnson. This was a digital talking book provided by, I believe, the Talking Book Library. This is right up my alley because, people, if you must know, my original PhD research idea was exactly this topic: where do good ideas come from? And my approach to it was using the framework of the information processing theory and also the cognitive load theory to an extent as well, where basically working memory and long term memory are segmented into several parts. Okay, in terms of the introduction, this book does a good job. The author does a good job, in providing historical examples. And this is where I think the greatest strength of this book is it actually takes you down memory lane and actually provides a lot of industry examples as well as anecdotal examples, a lot of which were very well documented, and basically goes into how good ideas come about, building on the existing information that already is around at that time. And this is basically what I also concluded at one point, that good ideas are basically a result of segmenting and fragmenting the knowledge that you already have and reassembling that knowledge to fit a purpose. For the most part, that's where good ideas come from. Sometimes you have accidental ideas as well, but still, if you really look into it, a lot of times things that feel novel, it can be traced back into putting several things together. If I'm not mistaken, how did Abe Simpson put the fax machine? That the fax machine is just a telephone with a copier attached to it. I'll give you another example, and this is a bit of an anecdotal experience because I really got to thinking, and basically, whatever I thought, this is actually correct in terms of how I interpret it. I recently had a very lucid dream, and for some reason, I remembered this. I was actually boarding a plane, and the plane was overcrowded, and there was a delay. And all of a sudden, a now deceased comedian, okay, someone who basically within the South Asian community is an absolute legend because he is an absolute genius of South Asian humor, Umar Sharif, right? He was gonna do a stand up routine whilst we waited for the plane to take off. And I really wanted to get this guy's autograph. So what I did was I knew his behavior pattern, that he will usually come in from the crowd like ECW Sandman, whereas everyone is waiting for him to come from the front. So there was a storage room in the back, so I just went and hid there so that I can, catch him and get an autograph real quick. And that happened, and Umar Sharif started his routine when all of a sudden we got this broadcast that the thermal missile from the ending of Resident Evil 3 is about to hit that particular airport where the plane was waiting to take off. Okay, and there was a timer. So what I did was I went into the cockpit and I led everyone into an end of life prayer, basically. People, don't ask me how I came up with this. It's a dream world. It's the dream world. All right. But I'm going somewhere with this. So all of a sudden, I had this brilliant idea. Okay, how to escape the apocalypse. Okay. I went outside of the plane and crawled into a manhole, right? And I crawled into a manhole and I found myself in the sewer that you find in the second Hitman game. All right, so I tried to do it like Fallout style. Then all of a sudden, the missile was coming in straight, like one of that episode of The Simpsons. I believe the French launched a nuke towards Springfield, and the nuke actually hit the comic book guy in the gut. So the missile was coming in like that, and all of a sudden the plane sort of jumped, like stretched up and jumped. Like if you've seen that movie, The Mask, you know how the mask basically dodges bullets from between its legs? That's what happened. Okay, yeah, I know it's very, very, very trippy, but if you paid attention to what I said, right? All of those pieces of information, they are not new. They are all some pieces of information that I have encountered. I have encountered before in my life. At some point, there is this information processing capacity. I would like to call this the subconscious information processing mechanism that is actually very powerful. But when you are actively trying to process information, this passive information processing, it usually goes quiet. My theory is that this is the area where dreams come from. There is some type of, you could say, a program that is written in that actually makes sense of all of the information that we encounter, not necessarily perceive. Encounter is something that you might just think about, something you might just like, it might be a piece of information that it just comes to your mind as a random thought. You don't necessarily need to see it or hear it or feel it. Stephen Johnson's book, Where Good Ideas Come From, actually goes very much in this direction and basically gives you several examples of how one idea builds on the other and emphasizes the importance of connectivity, and basically, like, uses the city and village model and several other models, like uses the adjacent possible. Very important phrasing, adjacent possible, very similar to the zone of proximal development from a Vygotskian perspective. It just goes to show you that good ideas usually build on existing ideas, and and also there is a element of randomness to it. Okay, and this, from a cognitive load theory perspective, from a information processing theory perspective, this is out there in literature. The random genesis theory, something that happens in long-term memory. Okay, my research was to figure out the mechanism of this random genesis theory. I later found out that there is much more to human intelligence than what you're putting in a machine, all right, with artificial intelligence. Like, what I told you in my dream is just the tip of the iceberg, people. If you must know, there is a cerebral level of information processing, there is a reptilian level of information processing, and there is evidence for this. There is a genetic level of information storage. That a lot of animals, they know how to do certain things from birth, basically. They were never trained to do those things. They never observed anyone else doing those things. Or they don't have the information processing capacity to understand those things. So, everyone who's afraid of artificial intelligence is very limited as of right now because it is based off of human intelligence, and human intelligence is not very well understood. But Steven Johnson's book, Where Good Ideas Come From, it goes a long way in explaining how human intelligence evolved and how it builds upon the past. And the best model he uses is the coral reef model of knowledge building. All right. The coral reef model, where basically everything builds upon what used to exist. And sometimes what used to exist isn't always viable. So that gets destroyed, but not fully. A skeletal framework, the outlines of what used to be, the basic concepts, sometimes still remain. And something new is developed in terms of an idea using that old framework. Those are the positives. The negatives, if I had one negative, it is that some parts drag on for a bit too long, especially when it comes to an audio format. I just keep saying, okay, we get it, we get it, we get it. Can you move on, please? But that inconvenience aside, people, if you are in any form of courses that involves human psychology, if I were an instructor, people, trust me, I would make this a mandatory book for my class to read, at least throughout the academic year. I'm going to give this book a 10 out of 10. Trust me, really, really fascinating read. Really fascinating audio read, especially if you are into information processing and how humans think. But that is it for this. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. And as always, please do like, subscribe, and hit the bell notification button. This is Blind Man Reviews, Tanveer Syed signing out.